YouTube subscriber just asked if I would do a sketchbook tour, and I thought I'd give that a try. I don't really have a sketchbook. I draw in pads of cans on paper, cans on marker paper, as I've discussed in the other videos, so everything is kind of a loose page. It's actually been a trend my whole life. I'm not very good at keeping sketchbooks per se. I do a lot of drawing and sketches, but they tend to end up in a lot of different places. Obviously, you know, for every drawing that you like, there's a bunch that for whatever reason don't make the cut. So oftentimes it's not about the finished drawing, but the kind of the path along the way, the creating of the drawing. So, you know, in a drawing like this, it's the orchestra or the marks, how they all work together. For me, a lot of this type of drawing, especially with pen and ink with no sketch, is that it's about being in the present moment. Like I've mentioned, you're just kind of free. So your access to that, your expressive self is very immediate. I think that's really important. It's something that I hope to talk about more because I think it's resonated with a lot of people just in the couple of videos that I've done about that. So it makes me think, you know, there's a lot of us artists that are out there who are struggling with accessing that place. And another thing I do is, you know, I'll often like put, the reason I like having these loose like this is you can put drawings together side by side in, you know, combinations that you wouldn't normally think of, or maybe they weren't drawn that way. And to me, I think this is awesome. You know, they all came from me. It doesn't matter if they're not intended to go side by side, or, you know, just let yourself be open to that possibility. It's fun to see them juxtaposed with one another. You know, you can really get a sense of, you know, your spotting of blacks, your value grouping, your overall silhouette design, and how, you know, maybe you're kind of repeating a complex shape over and over. I had just seen an Andrew Wyeth exhibit in Seattle, and, you know, his, I don't know the name of the painting, but you'll be familiar with it, the man on his deathbed. There was something very powerful about that and stark. And I think that whole exhibit really influenced me and kind of spurred this drawing. Maybe. Again, here's those kind of thumbnail no tan exercises that we talked about. It's been really cool to hear that people have been enjoying doing those. You know, drawing is fun. It should be fun. Night City. It's interesting one about this. I had a Brazilian jiu-jitsu teacher reach out to me, and he wanted to use this as his logo for his studio. You'll notice that I indicate a lot of things like, you know, words or something written. This is really just for the purpose of indication and to kind of suggest that there could be something written there, and it's intended for the viewer to sort of fill in what that might be. Again, looking at how these might, you know, go together. Another friend said that wouldn't it be cool to print all these out as cards, you know, maybe like 4x6 or something that would, you could mix and match and put together, and, you know, maybe there'd be some words that could like prompt some way of thinking. A lot of the drawings don't tend to have an idea when I first start. Again, I get into a flow state and I draw what comes to me, sort of my version of Frankenstein and that character, and the vulnerability and the innocence, and also kind of the shame that character embodies. Again, just playing with kind of the graphic design of a page I don't have a comic book background, so learning about kind of sequential visual storytelling in this particular fashion, like ink on page, is really, really fun exploration. As those of you who do comic books, and so many experts out there, it's a really versatile medium with so many unexpected things that you can do. In this particular one, just finding the minimal amount of detail. See the influences I talked about, there's Mignola and Sergio Topi and Breccia and Sienkiewicz and Jan Schiele. I mean, so many, there's so many to list. It's really hard, but I think those influences come through in my work, and hopefully you see a unique voice in it as well. This is a drawing I did for a friend of mine who's a Pacific Northwest wood carver. This drawing sparked the interest of a good friend of mine, Sterling, and I'm proud to say it's hanging in his studio now. Lots of drawings that I've done, I have shared with people. So I'll trade original art. Is something that I've really enjoyed doing over the last couple years, and it's been really wonderful. I've probably traded 20 different drawings and received 20 original works back. It's something I really recommend, actually, is when you find artists that you admire, whether it's Instagram or whatever, you reach out to them and say, hey, I love your work, and maybe I'd love to purchase it, but would you be interested in a trade? And 9 times out of 10 people are willing to exchange original art with you. And how cool is that, right? It's kind of interesting too, like how you can treat water and cloud. Just kind of exploring that. Again, what's the amount of texture, the direction of the line. A lot of these drawings are basically 30 to 40 minute drawings, sometimes much shorter. There's some in here that are definitely longer, but I did most of this drawing on the ferry boat ride. So it's 35 minutes in and 35 minutes back. I would sit down, take out the paper, take out the pen, and it was basically that amount of time that dictated the medium. I couldn't use paint, I didn't want to use colored pencil or things I had to sharpen, so pen and ink is what worked for me. This is one of my favorite drawings. I'm not sure why. Something about the feel of it. The indication of just enough anatomy to understand. As far as anatomy goes, what I really would like to do a video on is just what is the essential amount of anatomy information that you need to create a convincing figure. It's really about landmarks and designing shadow shapes that are true enough to the figure that we all know in our minds, where you don't question it. I mean, you'll see that I have used extreme exaggeration in my anatomy, but it tends to be all based on a foundational kind of understanding of the way the body's put together. This is a good example. It's like also another one of my personal drawings that I like a lot, but this isn't accurate, right? There's a proportional relationship between the forearm and this arm that's not accurate. The shoulder to the elbow to the wrist. However, there's enough that's truthful about the joints, the connection points, where you don't say, oh, that's not an authentic, real figure. You understand that it's an expressive exaggeration. And that exaggeration is not done arbitrarily, it's done for a reason. And you can see, the shoulder girdle and the latissimus here going into the serratus muscles, and then just the indication of some contour. You'll see that I'll often do these lines that spiral around the figure, especially in the forearms where you have the muscles wrapping from the outside of the elbow to the inside of the wrist. these are things that if you just indicate, it will convey enough about the natural anatomy that it will be convincing. Just stopping where I feel like I like this concept a lot. It kind of feels like a whole story could be in this idea about this boy who makes a dream catcher kite. Sometimes it's just a moment, you know. It's something beautiful that you imagine that you just want to try to capture. Sometimes it's about just shapes, you know, and how these two shapes relate to each other. Complex, simple, with a very simple silhouette. It may be that you just have this idea that you want to put two triangles together or something. Just go with it. Here's this character again encountering this large gatekeeper. This one was almost entirely a single mark. Started it. It was the figure eight of the, I can't remember exactly how it went. I think it might have been, yeah, this way. Figure eight of the hat and the brim of the hat, and then the crown of the head down into the face. So there was almost just like a diving in of following a sinuous line. Again, like let's look at them together, just randomly. You know, how do they fit? What story do they tell? That's pretty cool. I want to create images that people want to look at and think about, and maybe when they look at this particular drawing, it says something to them in the moment. Something different than if they looked at it again, you know, next week or months from then. It has that effect on me, so I kind of want that to be something that the viewer experiences as well. Again, just what's an interesting graphic shape? What's enough convincing elements of anatomy that where you believe the craziness that's going on, you know? Like, is this something to, you know, can I convince you that this upper arm and forearm work because I've grounded it with these hands? Or maybe not, you know? Maybe that's not the best example. How does your overall graphic statement, you know, kind of contain, you know, like the, literally in this drawing, the beating heart of your drawing? How do two characters work together on a page? What does this one say about this one and vice versa? How is the negative space between them creating enough tension or too much? You know, are they too far apart, too close? You know, you don't get it right all the time, and I don't even know if this one is. Maybe they're too equal in importance, but it's something that I think about a lot. And I really encourage anybody who likes to draw to think about those things. I mean, every drawing is just playing, really. It's just trying something, failing, trying, failing. I mean, it's just paper and ink, so it's not precious. Like it is, the less present you are, and the less present you are, the less able you are to enter the flow state. And you can only do your most authentic work when you're in that flow state, in my opinion.